was 5 years ago that Peter Nedved defected at the Max Midget Tournament in Calgary. Since then, he's been a Vancouver Canuck and a Canadian citizen. Unhappy with Vancouver's contract offer, Nedved has joined the Canadian Olympic team. Delighted to have the scoring touch of one of the world's most gifted offensive players, just in time for the games.
Nedved with two Canadian-born players, and the result is an offensive explosion. One line mate is rising star Paul Kariya, the first-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks. The other line mate is former Tampa Bay Lightning sharpshooter Chris Kontos. Together, the newly formed line combined for an unbelievable 15 points yesterday against the Czechs.
TSN, Canada's leader in international hockey, is proud to present exclusive coverage of the Nova Scotia Cup. Today's game from the Metro Centre in Halifax is brought to you by Air Canada, for all the world of hockey. By Imperial Oil and Esso Associates, proud to be a leading sponsor of youth hockey in Canada. And by Labatt Blue, honest and true, you bet it's blue. It's the final game of the 1994 Nova Scotia Cup. The Russian selects meet the Canadian Olympic team from the Metro Centre. Hi everybody, welcome to Halifax. I'm Gord Miller. Well, this tournament had to be rejigged a little bit after a major snowstorm hit the East Coast. Canada's game against the Russians in the round robin was cancelled, and so the tournament opened on New Year's Eve with the Czech Republic beating Russia 4-2. Canada with an impressive performance last night to beat the Czechs by a count of 6-2. Sets up this scenario. Canada with a 1-0 record can win the tournament outright with a victory over the Russians tonight. The Russians would have to win this game by 3 or more goals to capture the tournament title. And so the countdown continues to the Olympic Games in Lillehammer. These are some of the names that you'll be seeing in those games, which are now just 41 days away. Gary Green joins me now. Gary, the talk around the Olympic team for the last couple of months had been about the lack of scoring, and now everyone's talking about the scoring of the new #1 line.
Well, this was an exciting line that we saw last night, led by Peter Nedved. Nedved scored 40 goals last year, including playoffs for the National Hockey League Vancouver Canucks. He is a goal scorer. Chris Kontos scored 27 goals last year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He can finish off. Now they've got the speed of Paul Kariya, who hasn't scored 1 goal yet in the National Hockey League, but I'll tell you what, the way he played last night, he's going to score a bundle when he eventually does.
And here's the damage they did last night. Kariya had 5 points, as did Nedved and Kontos. 4 assists for Kariya, and they were on the ice for all 6 Canadian goals. They were, however, on the ice for a goal against, and if there is a concern about this line, it's the way it'll play defense, especially against the good European teams on big ice.
I talked to Paul Kariya about that just before the game, and as we had assumed, Tom Rennie did talk to the 3 of them yesterday about that fact, about being a little bit better defensively as well. Somebody's got to stay back there in the high slot, at least sometimes.
Now, some of the other players are going to have to pick up the slack as well, and there is still a problem for Canada on the other lines in looking for specifically a playmaking center and a sniper.
They can't be a 1-goal scoring line team by any question, because European teams tend to play with 3 units at least that can all score. So they're going to have to get some more scoring from their other units, but they're all capable of it. They've got some good aggressiveness, they've got some good size and speed. They're not too bad a balanced team right now.
And that big sigh you heard last night was from the Canadian coaching staff, which has finally found a line combination that is a legitimate scoring threat. So we look forward to Canada and the Russians tonight from the Metro Centre, and coming up tonight in our intermissions in the first, we'll talk to Paul Kariya. As well, we'll have a report from the World Junior Championship where Canada remains in gold medal contention. In our second intermission, we'll hear from Team Canada head coach Tom Rennie. We'll have a TSN Sports update on this busy day and highlights of the first 2 periods. But coming up next, it's Canada and the Russians, another holiday treat. And we've got it for you next from Halifax here on TSN.
Esso Tiger team talks pride.
Customer liked my smile.
I watched you guys work and we always had grin from ear to ear.
It's like being just a real family, and when you enjoy being together, you enjoy your customers more, you treat your customers better.
There's a great amount of care taken in everything that Esso does.
We take what we do very seriously. We expect to be the best, and we work at it.
Customers number one.
Quality, friendly service. And I think that's what it all comes down to.
You're on your way with Esso.
We're back at the Metro Center in Halifax. Canada and the Russians getting set to tee it off, and we're getting set now to go down to ice level for the opening ceremonies and their traditional puck drop of international hockey.
Now the starting lineup. Canada's national hockey team. In goal from Calgary, Alberta, number 1, Corey Hirsch. On defense, number 3 from Ottawa, Ontario, Adrian Aucoin. And number 24 from Calgary, Alberta, Mac Astley. On the forward line, number 9 from Vancouver, British Columbia, Paul Kariya. From Toronto, Ontario, number 27, Chris Contos. And from Vancouver, British Columbia, number 93, Peter Nedved. The head coach for Canada's national team is Tom Rennie. The assistant coach is Danny Dubé. And the director of hockey operations, George Kingston. As the special feature of Canada's international hockey program, minor hockey players in each community have been offered an opportunity to be a member of Team Canada for a day. Please welcome 14-year-old Michael Leonard of the Cole Harbour Wings, who will experience a dream tonight by participating as a member of Team Canada. Since 1981, Esso and Esso retailers coast to coast have awarded over 1 million medals of achievement for good sportsmanship and fair play to young Canadian players of minor hockey. Representing the Esso Medal of Achievement program tonight are John Landry and Michael McDonald. John and Michael are accompanied tonight by the official sponsors of Canada's international hockey program. Representing the Imperial Oil Limited, Barry Weems. Representing Labatt Breweries of Canada, Rand Kellogg. And representing Air Canada, Air Nova, Bruce McClellan. We would ask the captains of Russia's national team and Canada's national team to please come to center ice to take part in the official opening face-off to be performed by John Landry and Michael McDonald. And now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the national anthems? Singing the Canadian anthem tonight is Ruby Daly.
skies, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
With the Olympic Games 41 days away, the Canadian Olympic team continues its preparations for Lillehammer. Tonight it's Canada and the Russians, and the opening face-off is next.
If only I could drop in a chart. Just like that.
Imagine if my computer knew what I was.
New Microsoft Office, an integrated software solution that works the way you want it to. Call 1-800-267-3877 for your free information kit.
Welcome back to the Metro Center in Halifax, and the Canadian Olympic team continues its preparations for the Lillehammer Games after a 6-2 win over the Czech Republic last night. New opposition for Canada, which before this tournament had played 3 consecutive games against the Czech Republic. Of note is the fact that Peter Nedved and Paul Kariya will see different opposition for the first time. All their games with the Olympians had been against the Czech Republic. Sergei Abramov gets the start in goal for the Russian team. He did not play in the loss to the Czech Republic on New Year's Eve. And the starting goaltender for Team Canada, Corey Hirsch, who was outstanding against the Czech Republic yesterday. Got some help from the goalpost in that hockey game. Hirsch, a former Memorial Cup champion with the Kamloops Blazers and the American Hockey League Rookie of the Year last year with the Binghamton Rangers. Tom Rennie's team is truly a national team, Gary. Players representing 8 of the 10 Canadian provinces. Only New Brunswick and PEI have been left off this team, and Rennie, in his second year as the head coach of the national team, was Corey Hirsch's head coach with those Memorial Cup champions in Kamloops.
He's on a national road trip, too. He's starting on the East Coast and working his way to the West.
From here, it's on to Charlottetown, PEI, St. John, Unity, Lloydminster, and then finally back home in about 3 weeks' time. Play underway, and the big line of Paul Kariya, number 9, with Peter Nedved, 93, and Chris Kontos, but the first chance goes to Team Russian. Sergei Berezin takes the shot that goes high and over Corey Hirsch.
The Russian coach, Sergei Nikolaev, who is Canada's, or coaches Canada or Russia's top club, the Torpedoes. He was a defenseman for 6 years with Kimmich and then 3 years with Spartak. The Russian system has been all split up. No longer really is there a federation, but instead there is not only a national team but an Olympic team, and the system underneath of it is split between the two teams. A lot of confusion in Russian hockey these days.
And Viktor Tikhonov, by all reports, will be the man behind the bench for the Russians at the Olympics. Close chance for Kariya as the Russian defenseman had trouble with the puck in his skates. Adrian Okoy, number 3, looking ahead for Nedved, but the pass is broken up by Andrei Zhukov, number 4 for the Russians. Mark Astley gets it to Peter Nedved. Nedved became a Canadian citizen on July 1st of last year. He awaits clearance from the International Ice Hockey Federation to play for Canada in the Olympics. Paul Kariya wheeling to the front of the net. Sharp angle to Nedved, and the shot was blocked by a Russian defenseman in front, but another great chance for Canada's number 1 line. Here comes Andrei Papagayev the other way. His pass is broken up. Ken Lovson got his stick in to intercept that attempt. Here's Kontos with it. 27 goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning last season. Looking to get off the ice, he left it for Ken Lovson dangerously in front of Canadian goaltender Corey Hirsch.
Lovson wasn't sure that he had left it for him, though.
Brian Savage trying to get across the line. Took a hard bump, and the Russian defenseman number 6, Konstantin Masliukov, made the play, and there's another goal post. A great attempt for the breaking Russian Alexei Stepanov, and Corey Hirsch got some help from the post again. Here's Trevor Sim in front. The puck knocked off his stick. The Czechs hit 4 goal posts in the game yesterday, and this game is barely 2 minutes old, and the Russians have already hit 1. Corey Hirsch may ask for these nets to be taken over to Lillehammer with him. Dwayne Norris, number 10, battling for it in the corner, but Yuri Zuev, number 7, comes away with it. Flips it down the ice, and under international rules, as soon as the puck touches the end line, icing is the call, but a great chance moments ago for Alexei Stepanov breaking in on Corey Hirsch.
Well, Stepanov knows that he came very, very close to getting Russia's first goal in tonight's hockey game. Watch, Stepanov had a rolling puck, got it back down, made sure that it was flat along the ice, and he put it right up top. Here's the big long pass all the way across the ice, right through a lot of Canadian players in order to hit Stepanov right on the blade.
Baines control off the draw. Derek Mayer with a shot right on, and the save is made by Russian goaltender Sergei Abramov, and Derek Mayer brings to his arsenal a hard, low shot.
He played for the Nats last year, 64 games, he had 12 goals. One thing that the Canadian defense did well in last night's game was they kept that puck low and hard on the net. They got their shots away rather quickly.
Mayer also played for Team Canada at the World Championships last year on the team coached by Mike Keenan. Paul Correa and Brian Savage were also on that team. Here's Brett Lindros's first shift, and he leans into his man, number 9, Mikhail Mitkin.
He's got a sore cheek from a high stick he took in last night's game. He might not be in a very good mood entering tonight's game.
And we see another example there as he clubs down Ali Birkenov. So Lindros throwing his weight around, and here comes his line mate Todd Warner. Warner, a first-round pick of Quebec, streaking in. The shot goes just wide. Lindros had it hit his skate right in front. He can't reach it. Craig Woodcroft trying to get to it, but he's brought down. Now Warner battling in the corner. Gets some help from Lindros. All 3 Canadian players in the corner. The Russians break away. Mitkin gets it ahead to Birkenov. Back to Mitkin, looking for Sidley Arov. And the late trailer on the play was Sergei Makarov, no relation. And he flips it to the corner and heads off for a change. Eric Mayer lost in his skates, and Lindros mugged his man Birkenov. Got a glove up to his face. Sergei Berezin trying it at the side of the Canadian net. But Mark Astley, the defenseman, breaks away for Canada. His teammates are in the middle of a change, waiting for Fabian Joseph to join him. Joseph to the front of the net, but Astley was unable to get him the puck. Papagayev got bumped. Puck remains in the Russian zone, and Papagayev back to get it for Team Russia. To Sergei Berezin. Bumped by Jason Marshall, number 5 for Team Canada.
Canada playing early in this game very similar to the way they played last night. They had good puck control and attacked, put lots of pressure on the visiting goaltender.
Chris Therien, big Canadian defenseman, slides it to the corner.
Stepanov really was the only Russian that's had a good chance.
Here's Konstantin Masliukov. His pass is intercepted by Todd Lushko. The Canadian plumbers out there now heading off for a change. Lushko, Todd Brost, and Fabian Joseph. And Berezin tipped it to the Canadian zone, where icing is the call with 15:23 to play in the first period.
This year, with your assists, we can hit our targets and net our goals. The money raised by your United Way stays in your community to help people who need help most.
The United Way, Montreal Canadiens, and all my colleagues would like to thank you for your support.
This year, please give all you can give.
Earlier today on TSN, you saw the Canadian World Junior team defeat the Czech Republic 6-4. Aaron Gavey scored the winning goal midway through the third period. It sets up the gold medal showdown between Canada and Sweden at 12:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Pacific on Tuesday, and what a great showdown that'll be.
Congratulations to Canada's team. One more game to go, guys.
Nedved battling for it in the corner. Now Correa comes in to give him some help. Correa still with it. From the corner in front to Nedved on his backhand, and Nedved couldn't spin around and get the shot away. Long lead pass. Icing is the indication and the call against the Russians with 14:59 to play in the first period and no score.
Well, I think Correa was actually trying to set up Loveson. He saw that he had Nedved with him, but I think he would prefer to have used Nedved as the decoy, and Loveson was moving in from the point.
All Paul Correa did last year was lead Maine to an NCAA championship, win the Hobey Baker Award as the outstanding player in U.S. college, and named the Rookie of the Year and the MVP in Hockey East, and play in the World Championships.
Very classy young man that will do very well in the National Hockey League without much doubt.
David Harlock from the University of Michigan takes the shot right on. Again, the save is made by Abramov. Correa behind the net, like his idol Gretzky. There's another player on this line who idolizes Gretzky, Peter Nedved. That story well documented from last year's playoffs. But two players strongly influenced by the great one. Here's Correa now, in front for Nedved. Pass went under his stick. Harlock managed to keep it in to Kontos. In front for Correa, and the puck got away from him. Now the backhand pass right in front, right through the crease. Mayer took a swipe at it, had it taken away, and here's Pavel Klementovich. Getting ahead to Evgeny Shelyagin, the defenseman, up joining the rush. And Harlock would have none of that as he rubbed Shelyagin into the boards. Nedved flips it in and heads off for a change. Still no score. 14 minutes to play in the first period. Canada and Russia in the final game of the 1994 Nova Scotia Cup International Tournament. Here's Mark Astley. Head to Trevor Sim. Ryan Savage. He's got Norris with him. Savage tees it up and scores. Ryan Savage. The Montreal Canadiens draft pick puts Canada on the board first.
Last year's Hobey Baker's finalist, he just wound up with a great blast. Once Savage got that short little pass right over the blue, he took about 3 strides. That got him to the top of the circle, and this is what the goaltender, Abramov, saw.
And so Canada takes a 1-0 lead. Savage from Sim and Astley at 6:16 of the first period. And there's the scoring Canada was looking for from someone other than Nedved, Kontos, and Correa. And the line remains out there. Trevor Sim getting it back to Adrian Aucoin.
Well, one of the faults of the other units in last night's game was they didn't really shoot the puck enough. They had good opportunities inside the offensive zone as far as just the minutes that they played in the offensive zone, but really didn't capitalize on their opportunities.
Russ Romanuk, number 11. Back to get it for Team Canada. Romanuk, one of 11 players on this Canadian Olympic team who played U.S. college hockey, gave it away there for a moment and had to struggle back to get Papagayev, and then Papagayev got nailed just inside the blue line.
Good thing Astley was back because he just cut off that pass just before it was going to the Russian player who was all alone in front of the net.
Here's Sergei Berezin. Has it taken off his stick by Brett Lindros. Lindros got stopped at the blue line, gets it in for Romanuk, but the bouncing puck hit him in the skate. Now to Todd Warner behind the net. Back to the point to Jason Marshall. Here's Lindros corralling it behind the net. He gets knocked down by Evgeny Shelyagin, and play is called. We'll return to the Nova Scotia Cup in a moment.
Kurt Hart, Canadian Olympic medal winner.
I work hard to be the very best. I train hard every day, and that leaves my hair in a sweaty, tangled mess. That's why I use this, Pert Plus. Sure, I've tried some other 2-in-1s, but for me, Pert Plus is the best.
Pert Plus cleans thoroughly and conditions better than some other 2-in-1s, leaving your hair easier to comb, in control, and looking its best. Pert Plus, a winning combination for great-looking hair.
We talk about the jet setters for the Canadian national team playing a lot of games across the country and countries, but this team is made up of players who are playing in a league right now, and they just got together, flew over for this tournament, were given permission by their teams to leave to put this team together for this weekend, and will fly right back and join their clubs in league play this week. A little weekend road trip.
And another Russian team will take their place for a cross-Canada tour that, as we mentioned, begins in Charlottetown. And one of the great things about the Canadian national team is that it takes its game to communities across the country. When you think about people in Unity, Saskatchewan, and Chambly, Quebec, Lloydminster, Red Deer, St. John, and Charlottetown getting a chance to see the players who will compete in the Olympic Games just a month later.
That's some of the problems right now, though, going on with this split in the federation. The teams in Russia. Tikhonov and his players were supposed to be here, and instead they didn't end up showing up here, but a different group of individuals that are all trying out for the Olympic team.
Some things in Russia have changed. Viktor Tikhonov, as we understand, has not. Andrei Sidlyarov bumped off the puck by Ken Loveson, and the Canadians break away. The rink-wide pass to Russ Romanek, and Romanek almost had his knee taken out. Here's Brett Lindros. And Lindros knows how that feels, and he suffered a season-ending knee injury last year while playing for the Kingston OHL club.
Well, Romanek had his head down in neutral ice, and you don't do that.
And Romanek flips it in and will get off the ice. Glad to know his hinges are still in shape. Todd Lushko took a run at his man in the Russian zone and quickly hustles back to join the play. This line of Lushko, Brost, and Joseph comprises the only two players left from Canada's 1992 Olympic team in Albertville, Brost and Joseph. Berezin steps across the line, but offside is the call.
Meanwhile, there are no players on the Russian national team that we're seeing here tonight that played on the 92 team that represented Russia. And really, when you look at their players here and talk to their people in charge, is that they just don't know whether there might be one or two prospects or maybe three on this team, because again, until Viktor Tikhonov sorts out all of the difficulties in selection of the players and seeing whether the teams will let them go, they don't know what kind of team they're going to have in Lillehammer.
Lushko's centering pass for Todd Brost hits the corner. Brost comes away with it. And the Russians break it up as they hit it up to Andrei Papagayev. And Papagayev waits for some help. And Lushko tried to step into his man, Andrei Zhukov, but Zhukov leveled him.
Zhukov is a pretty sturdy boy out there.
Here comes Berezin in on Corey Hirsch, and Hirsch stands his ground and makes the save. Russians have outshot the Canadians 3-1 to this point. Approaching the midway point of the first period, and the Canadians head off for a change. Nedved back out there with Korea and Kontos. Aucoin and Nedved. Mark Astley wires it around the boards to Chris Kontos. Korea now. Second game this line has played together, still getting to know each other's moves. There's Korea to Nedved between the legs, and Mark Astley was streaking in from the blue line. What a pass by Nedved between his legs. Sergei Berezin working on Kontos. The backhand pass is picked up by Nedved, who quickly looks to break the other way. Astley with a nifty pass to Korea, who had trouble handling it.
I think Astley tried to make that same type of pass right there that Nedved made.
Astley ties his man up. Korea comes away with the puck with Nedved across the line. Nedved drop past to Kontos, hard shot, and Abramov makes the save, and the puck goes high into the netting behind the Russian goal.
Some pretty nifty work by these Canadians. Some pretty nifty passes and puck handling. Peter Nedved combining with Kontos, and Korea again in tonight's game looked pretty sharp out there. Korea ended up with the puck. He found Nedved. Now watch this pass, folks. Right between the legs. Not bad at all. Right over. In through the slot. There you go. Watch it one more time. Oh, they might be more than the Canadian Globetrotters, all right.
You know, Tom Rennie, the Canadian head coach, was telling me yesterday that when Korea and Nedved were just fooling around with pucks in practice, and suddenly he noticed that the other players had stopped to watch them. Just mesmerizing individual skills that those two bring to the rink. And Paul Korea at the World Championships last year did not look out of place at all, playing on a line with Eric Lindros and Shane Corson. That shot by Chris Therrien deflected just wide. Trevor Sim now battling for it in the corner. Brian Savage, the goal scorer for Team Canada. Now Therrien behind the net. to Dwayne Norris. A hard shot deflected in front. Rebound. Sim trying to corral it. Savage with a shot. The defenseman might have made the save in front. And now Dwayne Norris gets into a shoving match in front as Brian Savage had a great chance to score his second goal of the hockey game.
Plenty of opportunities here for Canada. You could see that their goaltender, Abramov, was out of the net, so now it's time for the defense to play.
Brian Savage from the University of Miami at Ohio. We mentioned he was a finalist for the Hobey Baker Award last year. It was won by his teammate Paul Correa. And he, like many others, wondering what's wrong with the Montreal Canadiens. But Brian Savage has much more of a stake in it than fans. He's a Canadiens prospect who was in their training camp this fall. Savage to Norris. He couldn't handle it. Papagayev comes away with it. And now here's Salnikov. Shot handled easily by Corey Hirsch. Loveson spins in his tracks, gets it ahead to Savage, who takes a bump. Now ahead to Norris and Trevor Sim. Sim, one man to beat. Tried to drop it for Norris, but he's gone the other way. And now the Russians break back 2-on-2. Papagayev swings wide. Another easy shot for Corey Hirsch. 7-2 the shots on goal for the Russians, but Canada has the only goal scored by Brian Savage. Papagayev with the puck at his skates, wasn't looking. Backhand pass now as he was looking for Valery Petrov. I think Papagayev has played the whole game so far. Still out there being watched by Sim. Centering pass now for Petrov. Petrov had the puck roll off the end of his stick. Savage now trying to chop it over to Norris. Pass was too far for him. Ken Loveson clears it into the Russian zone.
Seen the Russian teams for so many years play this same style. They'll lay back early in the hockey game and yet end up with the best scoring opportunity, as they did in this hockey game early.
Valery Petrov steps across the line, and offside is the call against the Russians. And a moment ago you saw Brett Lindros just miss a wide open hit on Sergei Berezin, and Lindros, like his older brother, likes to throw the weight around, and fans like this love to see it.
Well, Canada has no problems with players who have the abilities to take the body and to grind it out. These two young men, Brett Lindros and Todd Warner, showed that in last night's game. Both of them very physical, can take the body, and very young players. And that's what we have to remember when we watch this Olympic team, that those two players are the youngest players in this hockey club.
Lindros just turned 18 last month. Warner is 19. And Warner reaching for it now. Canadians unable to keep it in, and Mayer goes back to Jason Marshall. Derek Mayer won an NCAA title with Denver back in 1986, clears it in. Craig Woodcroft nailed his man in the Russian zone. And Jason Marshall scoops it up for Canada. Here's Brett Lindros. He gets bumped off the puck, taken away from him by Andrei Silyarov. Now the clearing attempt for Todd Warner is down into the Russian zone, and the Canadians will quickly change lines. Not many whistles here with 6.5 minutes to play in the first period. Canada leading 1-0. Adrian Aucoin back to get it.
One thing the Russians do better than the Czechs will attend to attack even 1-on-3, 1-on-4, but the Russians, when they come at you, they will end up coming at you as a unit. Their scoring opportunities become a little bit more effective than the Czech team we saw last night.
Here's Adrian Aucoin. Head for Lushko. Pass was too high for him, and he'll dig for it in the corner. Rides his man into the boards. Mikhail Mitkin. Russians having trouble getting organized in their own zone. Finally send it out as it gets past Mark Astley. Astley with it wants to say happy 63rd birthday to his dad, Dave, who's watching the game in Calgary today, and we pass along birthday greetings as well. Aucoin. Shot right on. Abramov steers it to Fabian Joseph, and Joseph took the shot, but the Russian defender rushed back to knock it wide, and they freeze it behind the net now with 5:36 to play in the first period. Canada leading the Russians 1-0.
Spicy, crispy, curly, thrilling. McCain Super Spirals. We love what you've done to our fries. You've spiced them up, curled them up, and turned them all around.
McCain has taken its famous super fries, dipped them in light-tasting batter, and surrounded them with bite after bite of spicy, crispy satisfaction.
You've spiced them up, curled him up, and turned him all around. McCain Super Spirals. Whoa! We love what you've done to our fries.
Our coverage of international hockey continues on Tuesday, January 18th. Canada versus the U.S. from the Olympic Saddledome in Calgary. And we'll catch up with the Canadians later on in the tour. The send-off to Lillehammer, Canada versus the U.S. from Toronto on Tuesday, January 25th. And if 1992 was any indication, there is some serious bad blood between Canada and the U.S. Many of the players play against each other in U.S. college games, so the rivalries carry over. Here's a 2-on-1 for the Russians. And the shot right on is stopped by Corey Hirsch as Viktor Salnikov broke in. Salnikov was looking over for Berezin, but Sergei Berezin was well covered. The Russians break right back as Papagayev has it in the corner. In front for Berezin, couldn't reach the pass. And now Nedved tips it ahead. He's got Correa with it. Paul Correa across the line. Long lead pass for Kontos. The pass was in his skates, and Kontos fell in the corner. Quick transitions for Canada. Here comes another one. Nedved trying to get it back for Correa. Now the Canadians regroup. Chris Therien wires it into the corner, and Nedved is there to retrieve it. For Correa behind the net. Correa in front for Kontos, and the shot is stopped and rolls just wide. Now here's Mayer right in front, and his one-timer is stopped by Abramov. So two good scoring chances for Team Canada, which has been outshot 8-3 thus far in the hockey game. Pavel Klementovich. Rink-wide pass picked off by Canada's Brian Savage. Put it dangerously to Corey Hirsch, who quickly fired it back to the corner. Klementovich tried to dish it off to the wing, and Derek Meyer is there for Canada. Brian Savage rides Klementovich hard into the end boards, and now Savage comes away with it, but he got bumped off the puck, and Klementovich has it for the Russians. His pass ahead to Stepanov, and Stepanov wants desperately to get off the ice and clears it into the Canadian zone. Wayne Norris throws it in for Canada. Trevor Sim digging hard after it, and Sim comes away with it. Former draft pick of the Edmonton Oilers still battling for it. And finally, it's Sergei Makarov, no relation, who comes away with it. Corey Hirsch clears it ahead to Russ Romanek. And Romanek sends it down the length of the ice. Icing is waved off. No penalties yet in this hockey game. Seen some good physical play, but thus far nothing that, in the opinion of referee Bob Best, contravenes the rules. Here's Brett Lindros digging across the line. Heading for the front of the net. Lindros saved by Abramov. Brett Lindros just swatted the Russian defender away and motored to the front of the Russian goal.
Well, that's the size and strength and what Brett Lindros can actually do and bring to this hockey club. And just imagine him at 22 years of age when he's in the National Hockey League. Not that he won't be there a lot before that, but he just needs some time right now to put all the skills together. He's big and strong and has the abilities to carry the puck to the net. All he has to do is just work on his fine-tuning, his puck skills right now, working with his hands, and that he's been spending a lot of time on this year. He's going to be a good National Hockey League player.
Born in 1975.
As his number on the back says. Just the 75 anyway.
Some of us have socks older than that. 2:56 to play in the first period. Warner with Romanek and Lindros. Russ Romanek, the grand old man on this line. He's all of 23 years old. Jason Marshall keeps it in at the Russian line. Now Warner in the corner. For Romanek, Lindros parked in front of the net. The Russians will try the other side as Lindros took his man out heavily. Now Berezin goes cross ice for Papagayev. And Salnikov clears it down to the Canadian zone. 1-0 Team Canada on a goal by Brian Savage. Here's Jason Marshall. Marshall got it ahead for Warner, and he got belted at the Russian line. But Lindros exacts his revenge on the Russian who took him out.
Payback.
Here's Berezin right in front, and wheeling around Corey Hirsch, he scores. Sergei Berezin comes right back, and this great puck-handling Russian forward wheels around Corey Hirsch and ties the game at 1.
Well, Berezin has been pretty effective out there in this first period of play. He's a gutsy hockey player that can play it physical. We saw him on the 2-on-1 opportunity that Canada foiled him on, but this time, watch this. He just uses his size to his advantage. He works his way in around the defenseman. Great balance on his part. He goes right around Jason Marshall and puts it nicely behind Corey Hirsch.
Berezin was the outstanding forward for Team Russia at the recently completed Izvestia tournament, a tournament that saw Canada learn some hard lessons about international hockey. And Berezin was outstanding for the Russian team at that tournament.
I say he uses his size. He's only 5'8", 176 pounds.
Speaking of little guys, there's Todd Brost. Wheeling it in front. Brost almost deflected the second shot home. Now on the wraparound, the puck jumped over his stick. And now Brost in the corner with Fabian Joseph. Centering in front for Todd Lushko. His shot goes just wide. Now Lushko. Digging for it in the corner. Takes a hard bump from Evgeny Shalyagin. Now Joseph behind the net. Fabian Joseph. Big traffic jam in front. Puts it right on net. But Abramov steered to the corner. Now here's Ken Loveson pinching in from the line to Fabian Joseph. Centering it in front, and Abramov had to handle that deflection quickly. Game tied at 1 with 1:12 to play in the first period.
Instead of slamming your foot down on the brake pedal, squeeze and release the brake using just the force necessary. It will increase the life of your car's braking system and save you money down the road. Trust your brakes to Midas.
Hockey's most informed team keeps you on top of the action, from crease to crease and from coast to coast. Monday, the Penguins start off the new year with a visit to the nation's capital to take on the Senators on Real TV, TSN.
The 22-year-old Berezin played in the Calgary Cup last year, which was identical to this tournament this year. He just walks around Marshall. Tremendous balance he's got, uses his edges very well, and then is able to put that puck in behind Corey Hirsch.
And that's the kind of play the Canadians will see a lot of in just over a month in the Olympics. Great individual skills. Canada opens the Olympic tournament against Italy. Here's Derek Mayer looking for Contos. Still trying to tie it up along the boards, and finally they draw a whistle with 58 seconds to play, and Peter Nedved gets an elbow up on Sergei Makarov.
Because the Russians lost to the Republic of Czechoslovakia. Okay, I owe you $2.
We set up
the Czech Republic national team. That's it. You can't call them Czechoslovakia anymore. Because they lost to the Czechs, though, in the first game, they have to beat Canada by at least 3 goals in order to win this tournament. Goes on goal differential, and 3 goals or more would do it for Russia.
Here's Nedved looking to get the return pass to Korea, but it's broken up in front. Now Korea. Look at him dance through the big people. Paul Korea leaves it for Nedved. Screenshot of Abramov with the save, rebound, and Ashley parked in front, couldn't get his stick on it. But the Russians break right back. Sergei Makarov, his shot handled by Hirsch. Korea leaves it neatly for Kontos. Puck rolled off his stick and is cleared back into the Canadian zone, where Derek Mayer was being checked hard by a Russian forechecker. Now Mayer trying to leave it for Kontos, and it's steered away by Sergei Makarov. No relation.
$2 to your favorite charity. You're pretty proud, aren't you?
Well, you know, small victories. We'll take them whenever they come.
Well, a 1-1 hockey game we've got here after 1 period of play. The Russians look like they're a stronger team than the team that Canada faced last night.
Coming up in our first intermission, we'll talk live with Canadian forward Paul Korea, and we'll have a report from the World Junior Championship, where Canada defeated the Czech Republic earlier today. Here in Halifax, the game is tied at 1, and we'll return with more from the Nova Scotia Cup in a moment.
In between the hellos and goodbyes, Air Canada, in travel partnership with Air France, Continental, and United Airlines, is changing the way you see the world. This is the new Air Canada for all the world.
There's always a little
Mike Toth, TSN Calgary.
Will
stay with us though, because when we come back, we'll have.
And the good news for Montrealers is that
the community of champions
are taking care of business in the majors is a new.
Saskatchewan was able to correct some mistakes.
He has had the opportunity to practice against the now popular 3-4 defense.
One would say, now if that formula.
At least he and most of his teammates. A little later in the show, we'll head to Calgary. TSN Sports Desk, Canada's sports authority, coast to coast. TSN delivers the biggest hits from the hardwood at the Hiram Walker Special Old Pins game.
Good strike.
Canada's top bowlers will be wearing their lane tracers as they compete for $90,000 in prize money. You can't afford to miss it. The Hiram Walker Special Old Pins game. Saturday, a semi-final berth is on the line in the men's 5-pin competition. Check it out on Real TV, TSN.
First entry draft selection in the history of the Mighty Ducks is Paul Correa of the University of Maine.
And Paul Correa joins us now in our first intermission. That must have been quite a moment, but it's quite nerve-wracking for players, isn't it, the NHL draft?
Well, it really is. I know for myself, I didn't have any idea what it was going to be like until I got there, and I was just a nervous wreck before it happened because for the first time in my life, you know, my future in hockey was out of my control, and it was a weird feeling.
Since then, it's been quite a year for you. An NCAA championship with Maine, the Hobey Baker Award, the World Championships, now with the Canadian Olympic team. When you reflect on the year in hockey, does it surprise you that, I mean, just 2 years ago you were playing Tier 2 in BC? Yeah, it really was a terrific year for all the teams that I played on. I really enjoyed you know, both the World Junior and at Maine, and obviously the World Championships. But you know, I'm with the Olympic team now, and 1993 is gone, so I got to concentrate on this year. This was a goal you'd set quite some time ago, wasn't it, to play for the Olympic team? Yeah, it really has been a goal of mine for a number of years now. When I was younger, they always, coaches always pushed me to the Olympic style because I'm not that big of a guy and have good skating ability and see the ice well. So the Olympic style of game really suits my style. You seem pretty comfortable with Peter Nedved and Chris Kontos. 15 points between the three of you yesterday. Yeah, those guys are terrific players. They all have really soft hands and they can bear the puck, and I like to pass, so the line's working well. You worked with some pretty good line mates as well in Munich last year, Eric Lindros and Shane Corson. Did they help you as well? Yeah, they were terrific. They really taught me a lot about what it's going to take to play in the National Hockey League, and I played with Eric twice now, that and with the World Junior Championships, and he's just an unbelievable hockey player, and he makes the players around him better, and he certainly made me a better hockey player. Now, you mentioned the NHL. Everyone wants to know what your plans are after the Olympics. Well, I'm undecided right now. I'm going to really focus on playing in the Olympics and on what I have to do here to help the team win, and after that's over, I'll make a decision. Paul, best of luck to you at the Olympics and beyond, and congratulations on a great start so far with the national team. Thanks a lot, Gord. Paul Correa of Team Canada, our guest here in our first intermission. We'll be back with more from the Nova Scotia Cup when we return to Halifax in just a moment.
The weekend's nearly over. Time to put things in perspective. Reflect on your accomplishments. Think things over. Think again. Celebrate Sunday night with TSN NFL style. It's a shootout at the Astrodome as the Jets tackle the Oilers. Hit the ground running with Sunday night NFL excitement on Real TV. TSN.
Numbers. From day one, our lives are filled with numbers. Some are good. A lot you can do with that. But here's one number you don't want to do without. Call this number now, and you could soon enjoy the benefits of card membership. With the card, you get some really great numbers, like 25,000, the number of people you can turn to for help, and 24-hour service, just in case your world doesn't stop at 5 p.m.
American Express, how can I help you?
But the best number of all is the interest you pay. 0. Relax. There's even one number you don't get. You don't get a preset spending limit, so you're never caught short. And of course, wherever you use the card, the one thing you'll never be treated like is a number. So give us a call now at 1-800-465-0508. That's 1-800-465-0508.
This year, with your assists, we can hit our targets and net our goals. The money raised by your United Way stays in your community to help people who need help most.
The United Way, the Ottawa Senators, and all my colleagues would like to say thank you for your support.
This year, please give all you can give.
Welcome back to Halifax, where after 20 minutes of play, the Canadian Olympic team is tied at 1 with the Russian selects at the 1994 Nova Scotia Cup International Hockey Tournament. Joining me now in the studio is Ross Bragg, who is the Minister of Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture.
Right
in the
on.
province of Nova Scotia. That's a tough title. Your
Big
business
handle.
cards must be about this long. Tell us about what this tournament means to this area.
Well, it's a great opportunity for Nova Scotia to promote itself as a place where international tournaments can take place. We've had many before in the past. This isn't the first one, and I'm sure we'll have more.
Now, this is a beautiful facility here in Halifax. I had a chance to come here last spring for the CIU basketball championships, and a lot of people wonder when some level of hockey, whether it's the American Hockey League or the Quebec Major Junior League, might make a return here.
Well, we'd certainly like to see it back because it's a great hockey town, and it adds something to have this in Halifax because the fans here support hockey, and it's a new dimension to the league to have one here in Metro.
Certainly the fact the fans in this area support all sports, it seems like. I mean, whenever I come here, there's sellout crowds for CIU football, for basketball, the World Figure Skating Championships played to standing room only crowds. The people of Halifax seem to be big sports fans.
No, we're great sports fans here in Halifax. We've supported all levels from the juniors up through right to professional sports, and our people come out for good teams that play good hockey.
All right, Ross, well, thanks very much for talking to us, and thanks very much through you to the people of this area who have been such great hosts for us this week.
Great. Thank you very much.
Ross Bragg from the Nova Scotia government. He's the Minister of Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture. I got it right. Russia and Canada tied at 1. We're back right after this.
The problem with using your local phone company for overseas calls is the out-of-reach rates that go with them. Fortunately, you now have a choice. Unitel Overseas, the new calling plan that can shrink the world by 28%. We'll guarantee you 28% savings on the overseas number you call most often. Whether it's in France, Italy, Hong Kong, or any one of 120 other planned countries. That's 28% savings versus your local phone company. Anytime, day or night. Call now to find out how you can also earn a free month of overseas calls. That's up to $500 in calls for absolutely nothing. So you can stick with your local phone company's out-of-reach rates, or you can call 1-800-305-3834 and ask about Unitel Overseas. With guaranteed savings and a free month, what in the world are you waiting for?
The teams play 4 skaters aside. Here's an opportunity. Lindros moving in. Score! Back outside to Racine. Lindros at the side of the net. Galley, Racine, Brecky. Lindros scores!
Eric Lindros played a major role for both this Olympic team and the World Junior Championship team. And for more on the World Junior Championship as it progresses, let's go for a report from the Czech Republic and Paul Romanuk.
All right, thanks, Gord. Should be a great final between Canada and Sweden. It will be on Tuesday, but Canada setting the table for that by going out and defeating the team from the Czech Republic by a score of 6-4. The Czechs scored first in the game. They scored 2.5 minutes in. It was Josef Marha firing a low shot from the slot that eluded Emmanuel Fernandez. That put the Czechs up by a score of 1-0. Canada came back with a couple. Then they were tied at 2. And it is Rick Girard scoring here in the second period at 15:37 to put Canada up by a score of 4-3. The Czechs came back and tied it at 4. And the turning point of this game coming in the third period, 7:49. Watch Aaron Gavey burrow his way out from the back of the net, comes around and tucks home what turned out to be the winner. Canada going on to win this game by a score of 6-4. It's going to be a great game in the final against Sweden. What do you think the team has to do that they didn't do or haven't done to win that game?
Well, I think number one, you've got to start with good goaltending. If you're going to go into a gold medal game, you can't be giving up a bad goal. And in the game against the Russians, Jamie Storr gave up one, maybe two bad goals. In the game tonight, Manuel Fernandez gave up a couple of bad goals, and you can't do that playing the Swedes for the gold medal.
It's going to be a great matchup between the big Swedish defense and the Canadian forwards. The Swedish defense is the biggest in the tournament.
Yeah, I would really think that the Canadian forwards are going to try and challenge the Swedish defense and find out if they're as tough as they are big. Kenny Jonsson is the outstanding defenseman in the tournament, Toronto Maple Leaf first rounder. The book on him is run him, try and see if you can throw him off his game, and he means so much to the attack, especially on the Swedish power play. Loves to come in from the blue line and try and tuck it in the back door.
And do you get the feeling that the Swedish forwards will be the fastest and most agile that the Canadian defense has had to face yet?
Well, I don't know about that. I know that they'll be a very big, strong group. They're their first unit. Johan Davidsson, a potential first-round pick this year. Peter Sundstrom, a first-round pick of the New York Rangers, and Lindgren, the big Winnipeg Jets second-rounder. These guys are big, they're strong, they're physical. They work very well down low. They're very like Canadians in that they like to cycle the puck, too, the way we saw Jason Allison do it tonight.
Great story you tell from last year before Canada faced the Swedish team, and there was certainly a very high amount of cockiness on the part of the Swedish coach and Peter Forsberg. They said, no problem, we'll go out and win. Of course, they didn't. Do you think the cockiness will be there this year?
Well, I think that the Swedes have an inbred thing where they think their hockey is the best, and obviously we have the same thing in Canada. And I think what the Swedes lacked last year was a respect for their opponent, and I think they might have that back now. I saw Tommy Tomft after they won their game against the USA today, and they knew that maybe they might win the gold medal if Canada lost this game tonight. And I asked him if he'd learned anything from playing Canada and losing to them in last year. He says, yes, but I'm not telling you what it is. But he had a pretty good grin on his face, and I would assume that the message that the Swedes have learned last year was respect your opponent, and if they've done that, then it'll make for a better game on Tuesday.
It should be a great game. It is Canada and Sweden. It is for the gold medal on Tuesday. You can see it on TSN starting at 12:30 Eastern Time. Note the time change, not 2 o'clock as has been the case. 12:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Canada and Sweden, don't miss it. Let's get back to Halifax.
Back in Halifax, where after one period of play, Canada and Russia are tied at 1 after one period of play. We're back with the second period in just a moment.
"97% of Canada's businesses are considered small businesses. Yet you know there's nothing small about yours. You've got big plans. The hurdles you face are enormous. And you know it takes a lot more than luck to keep going year after year. There's only one card created for small business, dedicated to small business. The American Express Corporate Card for small business. Call this number now and put your name and company on the only card that gives you quarterly management reports. They'll separate your spending by employee and industry, saving you time and money all year. With no preset spending limit, you'll never be caught short of funds. And there's 24-hour customer service, because your day doesn't end at 5.
American Express, how can I help you?
So grab a phone and get the corporate card for small business working for you. Call 1-800-387-8506 and apply now. That's 1-800-387-8506.
Team Canada opened the scoring in this hockey game at 6:16 in the first period. Brian Savage with his 12th of the year for the national squad from Sim and Lushko. The Russians tied it up as Sergei Berezin scored at 17:49 on a nice individual effort to beat Canadian goaltender Corey Hirsch.
Berezin, as we mentioned, only 5'8", 176 pounds, but worked his way right around big Jason Marshall. That puck was rolling for him. At the same time, he had a tough time getting a hold of it. At the same time, he was falling over top of Corey Hirsch, but managed to put it in anyway.
And the shots on goal through the first period favored the Russians 11-5. Unusual that a Russian team would shoot the puck as often as this one did, but it paid off in the late stages of the game. And we saw earlier in the World Junior Championship, Team Canada tied with the Czech Republic at 2, despite having only 5 shots on goal midway through the hockey game.
Well, let's put it this way. For the World Junior game today, it was certainly a tougher game for Canada than it was for the Czech team, simply because the Czech team had absolutely nothing to lose and could play a pretty loose game.
Corey Hirsch, the starting goaltender for Team Canada, figures to be when the games open in Lillehammer. 8th round pick of the Rangers. He was the CHL goalie of the year in 1992. Made the Memorial Cup All-Star team that year. Of course, won a Memorial Cup ring with Tom Rennie as his head coach, and last year posted a record of 34, 4, and 5 with the Binghamton Rangers. What an incredible record he put up, and a 2.79 goals against average earned him American Hockey League Rookie of the Year honors. But when the Rangers got Glenn Healy as a free agent, Hirsch found himself the odd man out in training camp.
But it may end up paying big dividends for Corey Hirsch, because it's so difficult to come in the National Hockey League and play strongly, play well. Some have done it. Felix Potvin has done a great job at it. But Corey Hirsch is going to gain just some invaluable experience this year playing for Canada's Olympic team against top-notch world competition. He'll just be that much better of a goaltender for the New York Rangers after this year.
Well, he and the rest of the team are preparing for a long road swing. They hit more towns than Greyhound, the Canadian Olympic team. A 6-game series against the Russians, starting in Charlottetown, PEI on the 4th and ending up in Red Deer on January 11th. Then it's right into a series with the United States, a 4-game series that concludes in Long Island, New York on the 29th. And that'll be Canada's last game in North America.
And again, you'll see a variety of different players playing for the Russian team that will play Canada over the course of those games.
Paul Kariya with it for Canada. Gets it ahead to Chris Kontos. Back to Kariya. Streaking down the left wing to Kontos. Shot high and wide. And the puck is up and over the glass. I found it interesting to talk to Paul Kariya in the first intermission, to hear him talk about the NHL draft as being the first moment that his hockey career was completely out of his hands. And that's something you don't think about when you look at the NHL draft.
Well, it is a very tense moment for any young hockey player, but I think Paul Kariya was selected obviously by a team that will build their team around him, and he's a good one to do that.
It's funny, we were talking to Tom Rennie after the game last night when the 3 players had 15 points, and we were saying that those 3 guys could play on any NHL team, and Rennie said, no, not yet. Wait till after the Olympics.
Yeah, he doesn't mind practicing them together a lot for whoever might want to use them afterwards.
He says, if you want them, just tell me what you'd like to do with them, but let me hang on to them till, say, about the 1st of March. Just underway in the second period. Here's a quick shot off the crossbar. Valery Petrov rang one off the crossbar, and that's 2 goal posts the Russians have hit in this game, and 6 that Corey Hirsch has had behind him in 2 games. He will take these nets to Lillehammer with him.
Well, he'll just tell you, like every other goaltender will tell you, he doesn't have to cover the crossbars or the posts. He just has to cover the space in between it. And that's exactly what Corey Hirsch has been doing. But yet that puck right there off the stick of Petrov was a dandy shot. Watch, Petrov worked his way right into the slot. He was a little off balance, but still got off that shot. He had Stepanov standing right to the left of him. There you can see Stepanov to the left of Corey Hirsch looking for a rebound. That rebound didn't come. Not his way anyway.
Corey Hirsch's backup tonight is Patrick Lebrecht, but his regular backup, Manny Legacy, has just returned to Canada from the Spengler Cup in Davos, Switzerland. And Legacy has just arrived in Nova Scotia earlier today and will be back in uniform for the team when it continues its swing with another Russian team across the country. Legacy, by all accounts, played very well at the Spengler Cup tournament. Brett Lindros had the puck jump by him along the boards. Craig Woodcroft steps into his man in the corner. Now Lindros comes away with the puck. Back for Woodcroft. Still with it, trying to scoop it in front. Finally does, but there's nobody there. Now it's Andrei Sidliarov trying to break away with it. The Russians spin back in their own zone to regroup. Shot right in front, and Hirsch just got a piece as Andrei Skopintsev moved up from the blue line to take that shot. And now retreating forward is Mikhail Mitkin, who took a couple of big hits in that first period and just dodged one from Lindros there. And his teammate Andrei Zhukov just avoided a big hit, and that shot whistled just wide. Now Berezin, the Russian goal scorer, had the puck jump behind him. Derek Mayer, the Canadian defenseman, looking for help. Finds none, so he's content to flip it into the Russian zone.
I don't think there's any question that Woodcroft, Warner, and Lindros have thrown more hits than all the other players combined in last night's game and tonight's game. They've been a wrecking machine when they've been out there, and pretty good defensively as well.
David Harlock slides it along the ice, trying to get it ahead to Todd Lushko. Now Brost with it for Lushko in front. The pass just behind him. And the Russians bring it back the other way, right on Corey Hirsch, who was forced to play it. 3 minutes into the second period, game tied at 1. Salnikov got it over to Shalyagin. He got brought down by Lushko. And icing is the call against Canada.
Hockey Canada wishes to express their thanks to all the people.
Todd Lushko wanted us to put in a plug for the slugs, as he calls them, himself, Todd Brost, and Fabian Joseph. Little guys who play big. A 14th round pick of Washington back in 1989. He spent last year with the national team. 22 goals in 58 games. A pride of Guelph, Ontario.
Well, they may have given him about 10 pounds there on the graphics, but nevertheless.
Well, Todd Brost is not much bigger at 5'7", 180, but Tom Rennie calls him the most consistent face-off man he has on this national team. Nedved can do more with the puck off the draw, but Brost wins them more consistently. And the big line of Nedved, Korea, and Kontos is out there now after a handful of good chances in that first period. Adrian Okoye, number 3 with it for Canada. Tried to slide it to Korea, but the puck rolls all the way down the ice, and icing is the call with 16:17 to play, and the game tied at 1.
We're in a garbage crisis. One reason McCain chose to pack their juices in these aseptic boxes rather than non-refillable glass bottles. 1 liter aseptic packages use 88% less material than non-refillable glass, generate 85% less solid waste, consume 62% less energy. Plus, it would take 30 trucks to ship 1 million empty 1 liter glass bottles to their factories and just 2 to ship the equivalent in aseptic packaging.
McCain made their choice for the environment.
Some low glass here at the Halifax Metro Center means that fans have to be prepared at all times for flying pucks.
No, I think that guy with the goalie mask on must be our director's cousin or something. He's been getting a lot more airtime than Todd Lushko has.
Hey, wait till Lushko hears about that. Korea had the puck jump over his stick, so Adrian Okoye is back to scoop it up for Canada. Russians forechecking aggressively as Pavel Klementovich fought Okoye off the puck. Mark Astley stepped into his man but took the worst of that collision. Now Korea comes away with it to Kontos. Kontos' pass hit a skate, and Okoye is unable to keep it in. Now here's Korea. Hit his own man with the pass, and it bounces over to Pavel Klementovich. Now here's Nedved. 1 man to beat, and the puck rolls into Russian goaltender Sergei Abramov, who quickly makes the stop. And speaking of goaltenders, we're pleased to have one right behind us, and it's nice to know that the man behind you is Manny Legacy. That'll always give you a lot of confidence. The hero for Canada at the World Junior Championship last year, who just returned from the Spengler Cup in Davos, Switzerland. And how did you like the taste of international hockey over there, Manny?
It was a little different, especially with the altitude change, and it was a nice city, so it was a lot of fun.
And the Russians breaking away with it now. Ale Burkinov threw it in front, and the pass deflected wide. Now there's another clearing attempt, goes right through the Canadian crease. And Harlock comes away with it for the Canadians. Gets it over to Dwayne Norris, number 10. And he'll flip it back to Jason Marshall. Now here's Brian Savage, the Canadian goal scorer. An empty back pass to Dwayne Norris. Norris still with it, high shot, and Abramov makes the save and hangs on in the crease. Manny, the big question, I guess, from a goaltender's perspective, how much different is it playing on the big ice as opposed to the North American ice surfaces that you're used to?
A lot of angles is a lot of different, and you don't want to be wandering around too much. As tonight's rink is a little smaller than the European ice, and it's just it's a little different, like the width and that. You don't want to get dragged over from the sides and stuff like that. So
And the dots are further apart, right? So when you're judging your relationship to the face-off circles, it's a much different adjustment.
Yeah, it's a lot different, a lot different.
Tell me about preparing to play in the Olympics and what that means to a player like yourself.
Well, my role for the Olympics will be basically behind Corey Hirsch right now, and so just basically waiting for a chance to play, basically. So.
Play back underway as Harlock flips it in around the corner to Dwayne Norris. Norris still with it. Another hard shot in front. Loose puck. Abramov finally falls on it. And play is called in the Russian crease. That's 2 hard shots by Dwayne Norris.
Manny, do you notice the difference playing against international teams as far as the passing game? They don't tend to shoot as much from the points as, for example, our Canadians do.
Especially the Russians. They're very known not to. They'll be 2 feet away from me and they won't shoot because they don't see the net, and they'll look for the open net in the backdoor play, and like our Canadian style, any chance we can get, we'll shoot.
Now the Russians breaking ahead with it. Berezin. Hard shot. Hirsch doesn't see it. Bounces right behind him and in. Sergei Berezin took the shot. Hirsch got a piece of it, but it bounced about 10 feet over his head. And when it came down, it hit him in the back and rolled into the goal.
You hear of shots that are too hot to handle. There's the shot by Berezin. It was deflected right off of a Canadian defenseman's stick. But Corey Hirsch had a difficult time controlling this. Watch this. He reacts right at the last second. He got a piece of it. Then he just had no idea where it went.
Manny?
Those are the ones where you hope it went over the net.
Manny, you must be excited about the Canadian team's performance at the World Junior Championship as well, as they try to defend the title you helped Canada win.
Yeah, it was very exciting to watch them play, and especially now all they have to do is beat Sweden.
Oh yeah.
That's all. That's all.
That's
right,
all.
Manny? Just one game.
Wouldn't be right if the World Junior Championship didn't come down to Canada and whoever in the last game. Play getting a little scrappy now here as the Russians have taken a 2-1 lead. The pass too far for Paul Kariya, and icing is waved off. This line of Kariya, Kontos, and Nedved has had its moments, but hasn't been as effective as it was last night. Shalyagin fires it into the Canadian zone.
Well, the Russians have played much better defensively against that line. They moved the puck well in their own end zone, and they've been able to handle the speed of that big line.
And here's Nedved in the corner. Looking in front for Kontos. The centering pass is knocked away by Abramov. Russians trying to catch the Canadians on a line change here. The shot by Mitkin right on Corey Hirsch, who steered to the corner. Goals back out to neutral ice with 13:10 to play in the second period. And the Russians enjoying a 2-1 lead. Mayer, Ricard Warner. He's out there with Woodcroft and Lindros. Mayer has it taken off his stick, and Mark Astley back to get it for Team Canada. To Mayer. Tipped ahead, and here's Brett Lindros. Lindros in a foot race tries to drop it for Warner. Centers it in front, and Woodcroft is robbed by Sergei Abramov. What a great chance for Craig Woodcroft. And offside is the call at the Canadian line. 12:37 to play in the second period. We'll return to Halifax in a moment.
Flag to flag, you block your teammate. Hard enough rubber comp and
Get ready to crank up the heat. TSN brings you a night of high-speed thrills with Rolling Thunder. Get into the fast lane and out to the world's hottest races, fastest tracks, and grueling up-roads. Crank it up with Rolling Thunder Night, Thursday on Real TV, TSN.
Well, Canada's maybe best chance to score in this period just came off of the stick of Craig Woodcroft. There's the nice little pass. This line is played very well, very effectively. Lindros made the nice play. Woodcroft was robbed.
Tom Rennie felt that perhaps the Russians were playing possum in the game against the Czech Republic when Andrei Karpin, who getting long in the tooth played against the Czechs, and he felt that the Russians were likely saving their best goaltender for the game against Canada. And it looks as though he's right.
He's certainly their most experienced goaltender. He's 34 years of age, so he's been around for a while.
Fabian Joseph. The Harlock taking off his stick and Beresin with a shot in front, and Hirsch makes the save. Ferocious forechecking by the Russians. Now a shot by Masliakov that goes high and wide. Russian forechecking has been relentless in this hockey game. You see the Canadians having difficulty clearing it out of the zone.
They've only had 9 shots on net, and we're almost halfway through the game.
Pass to Brost on an open wing. Quickly the Russians scoop it up, and they'll counterattack again. Beresin. Boy, has he logged some ice time in this game. Now Joseph picks it off for Brost. Pass in his skates. Still has it. Leaving it in front for Todd Lushko. Scores for Canada. What a great play by Brost to stay with the puck. Fabian Joseph will get credit for the goal, I believe, but it was Brost and Lushko who did the digging to get him the puck.
Well, the Russians were back-checking all right. They were picking up their men, but all of a sudden, just a great shot right here. Far side, beats Avramov. I don't think Lushko really took a look as to where he was shooting that puck. Yeah. He just put it on net.
Lushko and Fabian Joseph were side by side in the slot. And here's Peter Nedved breaking away with it for Canada. Todd Lushko scores the goal for Canada. Fabian Joseph and Todd Brost will draw the assist. Ties the game at 2. Here's Nedved right in front. Saved by Abramov. Mayer. His shot deflects wide. And the attempt by Mark Astley hits a skate in front, and the Russians bring it right back down the ice. Stepanov with a shot, saved by Hirsch. Here's Paul Kariya, one-on-one. Trying to get it over to Nedved, and the puck got away from him.
Well, an attempted nifty little move, putting the puck in his skates, trying to put it back onto the blade of his stick. Didn't quite work.
Now here's a turnover. Yuri Zuev. Zuev, a defenseman, number 7, looking for some help from the forwards, and here comes Kariya away with it for Nedved. Nedved still with it. Nifty back pass. Terrian with a shot. Score! Peter Nedved put it on Terrian's stick. Pretty as you please.
Good shot by Chris Terrian, but what a nifty move between Kariya and then Nedved. Nedved held on, then made a backhand pass. Looked as though he had eyes in the back of his head. He might just have. He saw Terrian moving in. Now watch Nedved right here. He could have shot. Instead, he just takes one quick little look over his shoulder, sees Terrian moving in. Terrian just moved right to the face-off dot and wound up with a good hard shot.
Manny Legacy, when you left this Olympic team, they were talking about it having problems scoring. When you return, all of a sudden they've got Nedved and Kariya, and scoring doesn't seem to be a problem.
And this line just came on fire in the past couple of weeks, and it's just great. I think Nedved joining our team is just a big boost to everybody, and everybody's stepping up a notch in their game, which is great.
And the offside call is made at the Canadian line. So all of a sudden, some new life for Team Canada. Tom Rennie trying to fire up his team. And Chris Terrian has the latest goal for Team Canada.
Manny, do you think after the road trips that you've been on this year that you'll ever complain once you get to the National Hockey League about road trips?
I have a new look for the WHL now. I hear their bus trips are pretty long. Now I just have a new feeling for those guys.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's good, Tom. That's the build, though.
3-2, Canada leading. 9:34 to play. in the second period. And the scoring has come in bunches in this hockey game. And here comes Birkenau. His clearing pass goes right through the crease of Corey Hirsch. Ken Loveson now gets it ahead. Our thanks to Manny Legacy for joining us up in the booth. Manny, good luck at the Olympics in Lillehammer.
Thank you.
And enjoy your road trip across the country. You'll see it like few of us ever have. 9 minutes to go now in the second period. And a 3-2 Canadian lead. Todd Lushko, Chris Therien, and Brian Savage who scored for Canada. Here's a shot by Aucoin, screened. And Sergei Abramov makes the nifty save through traffic. We'll be back to Halifax in the Nova Scotia Cup in a moment.
Well, up here, the Blues are everywhere. Well, you know, late at night, bars. Sharing the blues with lots of people just seems natural.
Like all great blues, ours have a quality that comes from the heart of the country.
You know, you can't stay home all the time.
Canada with a 3-2 lead over the Russian selects here at the Nova Scotia Cup. And Canada getting a much sterner test tonight than it did last night from the Czech Republic.
Well, Tom Rennie said before the game that he expected that this Russian national team would be and give them a much tougher game than the Czechs did last night. And I think that's a pretty good conclusion that Tom Rennie had before the game even started.
Todd Warner gets it back for Harlock, looking for Craig Woodcroft. Woodcroft took a bump, and now it goes back to Harlock. Flipped into the zone, and Woodcroft takes his man out of the play. Warner was trying to get in front of Lindros. Warner's got it back into the slot. Todd Warner shot off a skate. Warner still after it, keeps it in at the line. Woodcroft for Lindros right in front. First save is made. Lindros couldn't get the rebound, then takes a poke at his Russian opponent. I believe both of them will be headed off the ice. Brett Lindros is feeling a little owly these days. He took a high stick last night, and when he took that one here, he took exception.
Well, I think when you saw there that he may have got a knee by the Russian player.
Konstantin Masliakov is the Russian who took a run at Lindros, and he was a physical presence in the first game against the Czech Republic, and one of the few players that on this Russian team that seemed willing to take the body on every shift.
Well, I think after that knee that Lindros received, he may have just turned around and pelted the guy normally, but he's been trying to hold his cool. That's what Tom Rennie wants him to do, to show that he can be a disciplined player in international play, and he did a pretty good job of that, because normally in a given situation Brett Lindros would have pummeled the young man.
Well, I'll tell you what, if this was Tom Rennie, coach of the Kamloops Blazers, he could have sent a few boys over the boards to take care of that as well. His Blazers were very gifted offensively with players like Scott Niedermeyer and Zach Boyer and Daryl Sador, but they had some guys who could handle things physically as well. What a great junior team that was.
Certainly this team that Tom Rennie has got here is fully capable of playing whatever kind of game you want to play, because he's got some big, strong boys in his hockey team that could play it rough and tough, both on defense and up front. And then he's got that one line put together right now that would just intimidate you with their speed.
Now here's Mark Astley. He's got Paul Correa with him. Correa wheeling into the zone. Big collision in front, and play is called as the net was knocked off, but Correa made a great move to wheel into the corner.
A little bit of the intimidation I was just talking about. Doesn't have to always be in the physical sense, but when you've got speed like Paul Correa has got, then I don't think he's going to have to worry too much about physical play in the National Hockey League, because first of all, players are going to have to catch him in order to physically take it upon him.
Well, he's got unlimited options before him, it would seem. He can go back to Maine if he wants. He can sign with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. He could even stick it out with the national team for a while if he wanted to. They'll take a little break after the Olympics and then start things up. But limitless potential for this young man. There's a dangerous shot in front. Rebound, and Nedved backhand shot stopped by Abramov. And now Nedved comes away with it again. Team's playing 4-on-4. Korea trying to get it to Nedved. Pass was knocked away, and you'd think these two players would love the 4-on-4. Korea back to the point. Mark Astley. Korea leaves it. There's Nedved behind the net. Nedved got it to Derek Mayer. His Czech had his back turned to the puck and didn't know it was there. Now Astley hustles back, brought down in front of Hirsch, but just managed to get it away in time.
And that wasn't a penalty?
Nah. Here comes Astley. Quick shot, stopped by Abramov. Nedved stays out there. Here's a 2-on-1, and the Russian forward, Andrei Sidliarov, fanned on the chance in front of Corey Hirsch. Nedved flips it in, and he'll quickly hustle off the ice. Warner got bumped off the puck. Now tips it back to Chris Therrien. Passing the skates of Trevor Sim, and Sim had difficulty finding it. Now Ken Loveson flips it in for Trevor Sim. He's got Warner in front of the net. Sim still with it. Back to the line to Loveson. Lots of time. The shot blocked in front. Mikhail Mitkin got down in front of that shot, and it might have shaken him up a bit. Penalties have expired. Both teams go back to full strength. Late offside was the call, so the Canadians had to leave it in the Russian zone. Now here's Fabian Joseph with Lushko. Back for Joseph. The pass was behind him.
One too many passes. Lushko should have shot.
Now the Russians wheel away with it. Almost turning it over in the zone was Konstantin Masliakov. And Fabian Joseph picks it up for Canada to Lushko. To Todd Brost. Now ahead to Fabian Joseph. Headmanning it to Chris Therrien, the defenseman who has one of the Canadian goals. His shot was deflected in front and rolled harmlessly to the Russian goal. 5 minutes to play now in second period. Canada leading this game by a score of 3-2. David Harlock now with it. Long lead pass for Lushko, had trouble handling it. Now Harlock stands his ground at the line and breaks up the Russian attempt to clear it into the zone. Both teams opting for very quick line changes in this hockey game.
Well, there's been a pretty good pace, so if they want to keep it up, they'll have to do that.
Here's Sergei Berezin full stride, and Hirsch jumped out to poke check him. Second time Berezin has gone around Jason Marshall in this game. The first time it resulted in the goal. Now here comes Warner with it. Todd Warner, great individual effort, still has it. And now Brett Lindros came over to give him some help. Harlock retreats back for the Canadians. Leading 3-2. Tipping ahead for Woodcroft. Here's Lindros now. Lindros is brought down hard by Evgeny Shelyagin. And no call by referee Bob Best. And now Lindros angrily takes a run at Shelyagin. And offside is the call at the Russian line. 3-2, Canada leading, and tempers are flaring.
The SO Tiger team talks the details.
I think it's the little extra details that separate us from the other gas stations.
The small things like talking to the customer, using their name if you can.
Make sure you always have good eye contact.
One of the things that they teach us to do is if you're checking the oil, when you close the hood, then just take a clean towel and just wipe it off.
The service is number one, and then the details just top it off.
It's the little things that make us special.
You're on your way with SO.
Well, I would think the way that Berezin has played today that he'll get an opportunity, should get a good opportunity if he can continue to show this type of performance consistently and this type of speed that he has shown in tonight's hockey game. We might just see him in Lillehammer.
Here's Korea. Centering it in front, and Abramov quickly falls on it. We've had an official scoring change on the Russian second goal. It's now been given to number 13, Sergei Berezin. And the assists go to Zukov and Masliakov. That was a shot from the point by Zukov that struck Corey Hirsch, bounced up in the air and bounced in behind him. So Berezin now has a pair of goals in this hockey game. So Berezin must have got a piece of that shot as it went towards Corey Hirsch. 3.5 minutes to go in the second period. Peter Nedved hustles back with the Russians controlled in the Canadian zone, and the pass goes through the crease to Valery Petrov, who takes a shot from a sharp angle off the side of the net to Chris Kontos. Now Klementovich battling behind the net. Korea quickly jumps back to pick that up, and now Korea into a foot race with Evgeny Shalyagin. And a two-line pass is called against the Russians, trailing 3-2 with 2:57 to play.
Go for it. So you're a Chucky fan?
Yeah, and when I send in 7 Chucky soup labels, I get a free Doug Gilmour hockey stick.
Free, eh? I could use another stick.
Doug Gilmour!
So tell me, to use a fork or a spoon?
Call now for details on the free Doug Gilmour Hespeler hockey stick offer from Chunky Soup.
2:57 to play here in the second period as Canada leads the Russian selects by a score of 3-2.
Pretty good crowd for tonight's hockey game here.
Well, we mentioned it in the first intermission, but it seems amazing to me that with a facility like this and fans like this, that an American Hockey League team couldn't make it in Halifax.
There's been a number of American Hockey League teams here over the years. I think way back, though, to the years in the old building with the Nova Scotia Voyageurs. You couldn't buy a seat, beg, borrow, or steal one.
Icing is the call against the Russians and back into the zone. There's even talk about trying to get this city a team in the Quebec Major Junior League, but it's hard to imagine the commute that teams in the Quebec Junior League would have to make to get out here.
Well, I don't see that as being something that makes a lot of sense to me, but on the other hand, with the American Hockey League as hot as it is in the Maritimes and doing so well every place else, it just seems to me that somebody's got to put one back here in the city.
Maybe a big crowd here tonight because Fabian Joseph's family came down. Joseph is one of 13 children, grew up in Sydney, Nova Scotia, so once the highway got open after that big storm the other night, they probably brought a few people down. Fabian Joseph kind of concerned about getting his relatives down as much as he was concerned about the opening game of the tournament. Here's Ken Lovson with a shot right on. Dwayne Norris was circling dangerous for the rebound.
Brian Savage got dumped right off the faceoff. He'd had words prior to the puck drop, and then ended up getting dropped himself.
With a name like Savage, you might want to be careful getting his back up. Trevor Sims skated by the puck, and now it's cleared back to Chris Therrien, who waits for his mates to get onside. Therrien has one of the Canadian goals, left it for Lovson. Now he's got to retreat to get it. Clears it, but not out. Petrov centered it in front, but it's picked off, and Dwayne Norris comes the other way with it. Trevor Sim to Savage. Dwayne Norris scoops it up at the line. Now to Savage, looking in front for Trevor Sim. This goes right to Chris Therrien. Scores! The pass by Savage hit a stick that had been dropped in the slot and goes right to Chris Therrien, and now we've got players tussling at the face-off circle.
We've got a fight going on.
Dwayne Norris is in there. Dwayne Norris is into it with Andrei Skopintsev of Team Russia.
Yeah, that was a frustrating shift for a number of players on both teams.
Boy, you don't see this much. Guys actually dropping their gloves and throwing them. Now check this out.
Well, Savage, first of all, made that pass out. It hit the stick. Chris Therrien ends up being the beneficiary of it and walked in and just put a great shot right on the stick side. Now watch this pass again. It's going to hit the stick right there. Makes the stick move. Therrien moves in quickly, very alert, picks it up and puts it right in the far corner. The goaltender, Abramov, had backed way into his net.
I'll put 10 pucks in that corner, lay a stick down, and dare Brian Savage to make a pass like that again.
Well, Chris Cherian's become a goal scorer in this hockey game. The big man that he is, 6'5", 235 pounds, looked pretty agile.
Yeah, did he ever?
Philadelphia draft choice back in 1990s draft, third rounder.
Played last year in Providence, 8 goals, 11 assists. Providence, the school most famous for turning out Brian Burke. He was a good player when he was a collegian there. Louis Lamorello, I think, used to run the program down at Providence, didn't he? Now the GM of the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, sure did. Well, just remember, in order for Russia to win this Nova Scotia Cup, they have to win the game by 3 goals. Canada, with a 2-goal lead right now, goes into the second intermission feeling pretty comfortable.
Here come the Canadians, Todd Brost.
Russian penalty to number 8, Andrei Skopitsa.
Well, after that, what looked to be a fight between Norris and Skopintsev, it's only 2 minutes each for roughing.
You don't fight in international hockey here, otherwise you're gone. So it's a lot of 2-minute fights.
Well, I want to know what you'd have to do to get a fighting major. Here's a shot by Berezin that drifts high and wide. Boy, heaven help us if there was a real fight.
Well, we often talk about that in regards to international hockey, but I think over the years I've seen a lot of 2-minute fights that have occurred, so I think they should change that roughing to fighting and just give it a 2-minute minor penalty.
2 minutes for fighting just doesn't have the right sound to it, though. Here's Peter Nedved. His pass for Korea goes off his skate. Nedved to Korea. Back to Nedved. And in front, tipped, and Abramov makes the save as Adrian Aucoin had streaked in from the blue line. What a great save by this Russian goaltender. Now Korea wheeling in. Nobody with him. Now fires it out front to Astley. Tees it up to Mayer. His shot goes wide. And now here's a breakaway for the Russian. And a great effort by Mark Astley to get the puck and knock it off the stick of Alexei Stepanov. Mark Astley hustled back and broke up what appeared to be a breakaway, uncontested by Stepanov. Now Mayer breaking in. The Canadian defenseman with a couple of good opportunities. Nedved to Astley. Time running down, and the second period comes to a close with a flourish as the crowd rises and Canada takes a 4-2 lead to the dressing room after 2 periods.
Well, what an exciting end to the second period of play. Paul Kariya stepping on the ice and ending up having a great shift. And this may be the most exciting of all. Watch Astley. He just timed that perfectly. It was almost like a chop play, and he knocked that puck right away from Stepanov and took the Russian opportunity away to bring this game within 1 to close the second.
Stepanov might have been the most surprised man in the building. So we're upon the second intermission, and coming up, we'll have a feature look at Canadian coach Tom Rennie. We'll have a TSN Sports update with this busy day in sports and highlights of the first 2 periods. There are plenty to choose from. We're back with more from the Nova Scotia Cup right after this.
Look at the number of shots on net, and I'm sure that Tom Rennie was concerned about that. They're getting outshot badly, but yet when you take a look at the scoreboard, then it all looks different, though. That's where shots on net can sometimes be very deceiving.
You'd love to see, and it's such an objective stat, but you'd love to see a stat kept of scoring opportunities. A lot of teams keep that stat, but you'd like to see it kept regularly, because even shots on goal are becoming somewhat tainted right now. I mean, the Minnesota scorekeeper was famous for inflating shots on goal, and there are other places. I mean, a lot of NHL players talk about St. Louis as a place where they think that shots in the warm-up are counted in shots on goal, because it seems like, you know, the teams count the shots and then look at the shots on goal total. It seems a little different.
Well, I'm sure Tom Rennie, as I had mentioned, would be the first to agree that they've got a 2-goal lead right here, but the Russians have been a much better hockey club than their 11 shots on net have really shown in this hockey game, and that's where it can be extremely deceiving. The Russians are still very capable of winning this hockey game. But can they do it by 3 or more goals? That is probably doubtful.
Saw a Russian team the other night score 3 goals in the last 7 minutes of a hockey game to get a tie with Canada at the World Junior Championship. So I suppose any and all things are possible. Teams start the third period 4-on-4 with Norris and Skopintsev serving out the final seconds of their offsetting roughing minors. Now those players are back on the ice. There's a long lead pass for Kontos to Nedved, streaking into the right wing. Nedved backhand shot wide, and Nedved dropped hard behind the net.
Boy, did he ever.
And Nedved is shaken up a little bit, and a penalty coming to the Russians.
He just went flying into those Eden boards, almost head first. He may have got his shoulder in there first. Nedved, though, surprisingly, seems all right. Watch this, folks. He just cuts in towards the net, goes to his backhand, and then just ends up colliding with the goaltender and flies right head first into the boards. Watch this. That's a pretty flexible, resilient move on the part of Nedved to get up that quickly and get right back into the play. And he's staying out there.
Konstantin Masliukov, number 6, goes off for slashing. So Canada will go to the power play for the first time in the hockey game. Nedved, quick shot. Rebound to Korea, save made. And here's Mayer. Derek Mayer back at the line. Working with Korea. Now he goes the other side. There's Nedved in the corner. Kontos to Korea. Right back to Kontos in his skates. Korea's got Nedved in front. Pass went off his skates. And Nedved's pass is picked off for a moment. Now Kontos throws it in front. And here's Korea. Right back in front to Astley, and the Russians break away with it quickly. Berezin, who has a couple of goals in this hockey game. Now a shorthanded chance across the line, but Nedved tied him up from behind.
The problem is Berezin seems to be a one-man show out there. He doesn't appear to be a great playmaker, but tremendous one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-four.
Here's Korea. Wheeling in front, Nedved scores! Korea to Nedved.
I think that's a pretty good example right there what maybe Berezin can do for his hockey club. That's in the negative department. He ended up controlling the play, but then got really his whole team out of sorts. That was just a beautiful pass by Korea over to Nedved. You heard Paul Korea say that he loves to pass the puck. Well, I'll tell you what, he's a pretty good passer. And if the National Hockey League, who constantly talk about finding those 95% passers, I'd say Paul Korea is the next one out there.
Canada's power play goal scored by number 93, Peter Nedved. Assisted by number 9, Paul Korea. Time of the goal, 125 seconds.
So on the power play at 1:25, Canada takes a 5-2 lead. Now here's Savage. Across the line for Trevor Sim, still with it. Sim looking for Norris in front. The puck hit a skate. So the scouting report on Team Canada might need an addition here, as in don't take penalties because they'll burn you on the power play. Canada just did and now enjoys a 3-goal lead.
First, there was McCain Pizza Pockets. Now there's
McCain Super Pockets. Taste the perfection.
Zesty Chicken Fiesta. Delicious Western style. Creamy egg and cheese.
McCain Super Pockets.
All with a crust that's baked, not fried. So there's no leaks, no mess.
McCain Super Pockets.
Super taste, super snacks.
Well, Nedved and Korea and Kontos once again make it pretty. There you can see the shot from behind the net and the setup of the play. Once Korea got that pass over to Nedved, I don't think Abramov had too much of a chance on that one. Just a good quick shot by Nedved.
And in Nedved and Correa, you're looking at two of the biggest fans that Wayne Gretzky ever had. And you can sure see the influence the great one had on their style. From the wheeling at the blue line, the quick passes. Here's Woodcroft in front for Lindros. His shot rolls wide. And here's Brett Lindros behind the net again. Moving right in front. Shot goes through the crease. Todd Warner with it now. Shoots it in front. Deflected away, and now the Russians break back. Andrei Sidliarov. Right for Papagayev. Papagayev took a butt. Here's Lindros. Pass too far for Woodcroft. And now he's cleared back into the Canadian zone with 17 minutes to go in the third period. Derek Mayer flips it in. Canada going for a quick change. Now the Russians coming back. Sergei Makarov. Goes cross side to Viktor Salnikov. His shot goes wide. Lindros. Oh, he wanted him all game long, and he just leveled Konstantin Masliakov. Lindros had been looking for him for about 45 minutes, and he clocked him.
Well, Brett Lindros was late getting off on his shift, but he tried to get the puck down in deep so his line mates could get off. So he was tired at this point. But here's the man that he's wanted all game for the knee that he received, and he got him. Now it was a well-deserved rest.
And a bath.
You wonder where that water came from.
Hope that wasn't Masliakov. You'll be sorry if it was.
Well, it was, because right now Brett Lindros was standing up on the bench looking over at the Russian bench because they did squirt water over at him.
That'll teach him.
No wonder they didn't have a little sand in their pocket in order to throw in his face too.
Yeah. What's next? Joy buzzers and whoopee cushions? Lushko takes a bump at the line. Tried to clear it in, but couldn't.
Well, Canada's up 5-2, but they're losing the water fight 1-0.
Yeah. I don't think that's Olympic competition just yet. Another big hit behind the play. That time by Fabian Joseph, who's parked in front of the net. Astley unable to keep it in, and now the Russians break away. Salnikov for Berezin, who fanned on it completely. Berezin teed up on it and fanned completely, and Mayer brings it back for Canada. Drop pass for Nedved, scored! Peter Nedved from Derek Mayer.
I'll tell you, I'm sure the Vancouver Canucks are watching last night and tonight and seeing a much-needed goal scorer, not in their lineup, performing pretty well. Peter Nedved got that pass from Mayer and then just picked the corner beautifully. Abramov came out to cut down the angle. That didn't do much good, though, because Nedved seems to have found that shooting eye that he's got, and he just wired that puck right up into the top corner.
Tell you what, if Canada does win a medal at the Olympics, the citizen judge that swore in Peter Nedved should get one too, because when Peter Nedved became a Canadian citizen, our Olympic team got a whole lot better.
You know, the thing I think we have to keep in mind here, though, is the fact that, as Peter Nedved pointed out to me before the game, if he's traded, for example, there's not much chance of him going then to the Olympics, because he feels that the NHL club will want him to play right away. So that if he's traded in the next few days, for example, that he'll probably not be going with Canada's Olympic team and end up playing in the National Hockey League. But it will not be with the Vancouver Canucks.
You know what's interesting is, as the puck is shot in around Corey Hirsch, now a rebound in front to Klementovich, who shoots it wide. Klementovich again with it. Hirsch makes the save standing up. Another shot in front, and finally Hirsch hangs on. 14:29 to play in the third period. We'll return to Halifax in a moment.
Molson NHL Tonight on TSN. Hockey's most informed team keeps you on top of the action. From crease to crease and from coast to coast. Monday, the Penguins start off the new year with a visit to the nation's capital to take on the Senators. The puck drops here on Real TV TSN.
Just to finish the thought about Peter Nedved, interesting when the NHL went to the conference format for the playoffs, it might have made it a lot more difficult for Peter Nedved to get dealt. The Canucks less likely to deal him now to, say, a team like Chicago, Toronto, Detroit, because that could be a first-round opponent in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It used to always be the general manager who would say never trade an impact player within your division, but now with the conference playoff setup, you might not be as likely to trade a player like Peter Nedved.
Yeah, that is a good point. For those Vancouver Canuck fans that think that Peter, there might be a chance, it just seemed very clear to me that in talking to him before the game that there was just no chance that he would return. He said he's told General Manager and President Pat Quinn that. Got no hard feelings, just doesn't want to go back and play for Vancouver.
And the Canucks could use him.
Well, with his scoring skills, a lot of teams could, and so his performance might up the trade abilities.
Here's Trevor Sim in front. Puck bounces to the top of the net. And Canada unable to get the kind of bounce that allowed Berezin to score in the second period.
You know, going back to that point, though, a lot of the National Hockey League teams that are interested in Peter Nedved, and I don't know who wouldn't be, can be watching him right now and realizing that he is in top game shape, it appears. He's skating, he's shooting.
Well, with the drought in scoring in the NHL, a player like Nedved will certainly be in demand, and he really came into his own last year with the Canucks. Pavel Bure's been having his problems this year.
Hey, Jack Ferrer could go after a whole line here. I mean, he's already got one.
Yeah.
Chris Kontos is a free agent, unrestricted. He could make a deal with Pat Quinn.
Here's Trevor Sim with a shot high off the mask of the Russian goalkeeper. I'm not sure if Ferrera's got enough to give up to get Nedved away from the Canucks. Papagayev trying to make a move around Harlock, who would have none of it. Sidliarov with a shot right on, and Corey Hirsch steers that to the corner. Now Trevor Sim trying to kick it away, but Sidliarov comes up with it. Back pass, and Trevor Sim picks it up.
Well, they could maybe give them Euro Disney or something.
Yes, I understand that's for sale. Or at least available cheap. Dwayne Norris bumping with his man in the corner, comes up with the puck. And now Brian Savage. Wrap around backhand shot and stopped right on the line by Abramov. That puck stopped dead on the goal line. And you see Konstantin Masliukov getting involved again. Stay tuned at the conclusion of this game for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by Interstate Batteries.
Oh, please, just help me this once. Oh.
Next time, get a dependable Interstate battery. We check them before you buy them for fresh power. Guaranteed.
There you see Brian Savage, and immediately to his right, the left as we look at it, Paul Kariya. Those two men, the finalists for the Hobey Baker, and there's Therrien scoring for Canada.
I didn't know whether it was tipped, but if not, Chris Therrien has got himself a hat trick.
Wow. Therrien's having quite a night.
We'll have to watch the screen in front of Abramov, but that puck came back to Therrien, and he just slapped that puck.
Well, we were just mentioning two U.S. college players. There's another, Therrien from Providence with the hat trick. And one thing that they wanted to see was play from the defense. Here's Todd Warner right in front, shoots it wide. Lindros standing in front of the net waiting for a rebound, and the pass was gloved ahead. Tom Rennie said he wanted to see more scoring from the blue line, and Chris Therrien single-handedly has provided it.
They gave that goal to Therrien, so that is a hat trick for him.
After the goal, 6 minutes, 49 seconds. Canada goal scored by Therrien from Warner.
Therrien gets the goal. Todd Warner came right back with a great rush, kept his balance after getting whacked, still got the shot away. Hey, how do you like that? A 6'5" defenseman that ends up getting a hat trick for you.
Now Jason Marshall with a shot from the line. All the Canadian defensemen are starting to tee it up, getting on the Therrien gravy train. Jason Marshall, a first-round pick of the St. Louis Blues back in '89, played last year with Peoria.
Well, it's one thing that the Olympic team can do. It can revive a player's career. It can, in fact, enhance a player's career. if he's just entering the National Hockey League, and for some of the draft choices that are about to enter the National Hockey League, it's one great stepping stone.
You know, it wasn't until his great Olympics that people were convinced that Joe Juneau could be a frontline NHL player.
Remember, Juneau last year ended up being Canada's top scorer at the Olympics, I should say 2 years ago.
Here's Warner with a shot right on. The Canadians flying now. Warner trying to get it to Lindros. 12.5 minutes to play in the third period. Canada leading 7-2. Pass in front is steered away harmlessly and tipped back outside the line. Here's Russ Romanoff. Spent some time with the Winnipeg Jets last year, Moncton and Fort Wayne. Got it ahead to Brett Lindros, who found that pass a little out of his reach, and now the Russians break back. Shot right on. Corey Hirsch gloves it. There. Back for the Canadians to Fabian Joseph right in front. Joseph! Great moves, and Abramov stood his ground and made the save. Fabian Joseph with some nifty moves with the puck. Sergei Makarov flips it into the Canadian zone. Here's Astley back for Canada. Joseph. To the wing to Astley, streaking up from his defense position. Empty pass back to Todd Brose, who tees it up from a sharp angle to flex wide. Astley right back with it. Still skating in front, finally brought down.
Astley scored last night. He's looking for one tonight.
And an offside pass is the call against the Russians. 11:09 to play in the third period. Canada with a 5-goal lead.
Analyzed.
Pasteurized. Preserved.
Conclusion.
Regular air.
Next chamber. Analyzed.
Cold. No additives.
Conclusion.
Naturally clean, fresh tasting, real dried. Where you are is where it's at.
This is Steve Kroll of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, whose name was drawn this evening at the game, and he gets an all-expense-paid trip to the Olympic hockey tournament in Lillehammer. How good is that?
That's pretty good.
He'll get to play goal against Italy, too, if Canada gets ahead by a big margin.
I'll tell you what, he looked pretty happy, and so he should.
That's a great prize.
That's worth an awful lot of money.
I would say the guy sitting next to him should start doing some serious sucking up and try to get the other half of that trip for two. Get you a beer, Steve? Here's Barrison with it now. Centering in front, the Canadians break it up. Craig Woodcroft for Peter Nedved. Head to Contos. Tom Rennie juggling his lines a little bit. Woodcroft got bumped off the puck, and now Nedved's hard after it. And circling dangerously in front of his own goal was Ali Burkinov. Barrison.
The Russians have no reason right now to stay back in their own end zone here and play around with the puck. They should be having 5 men up, because they not only have to score 5 goals, they've got to score 8 goals right now.
Here's a drop pass for Astley. Right in front, Mark Astley scores! Wow.
Told you he was looking for a goal tonight.
He found it. 8 goals for Canada, half of them by defensemen. And Mark Astley scores on his dad's birthday.
Happy birthday, Dad. Just a nice drop pass right there by Chris Kontos. Astley walks right in and finds the room behind Abramov. Astley spread those legs, had good balance, made sure he had good control of the puck, and got a good shot away.
He should be a candidate for a potential shootout if an Olympic game went to one. Boy, think about the players Canada could put out in a shootout if the roster held as it is. Nedved, Korea, Kontos, pretty good snipers.
Well, I know they've also been practicing that because associate coach Danny Dubé lost He wouldn't get to perform in the Olympics, but performs in practice.
Fabian Joseph with a shot right on. The save is made by Abramov. Now there's an interesting possible addition to this Olympic team, and it's a player we haven't talked about yet in this hockey game. That's Glenn Anderson of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who played for Canada the 1980 games in Lake Placid, and would dearly love a chance to play again for Team Canada. He's been working out in preparation for the Olympics and getting himself in shape for the international ice. The question now is with the NHL, they would have to suspend the waiver rules, because for Glenn Anderson to be sent to the Olympic team, he would have to clear waivers in the NHL, and I don't think the Leafs want to put Glenn Anderson on waivers.
I think it comes far beyond that, in fact, because I don't think the way the Leafs have been playing and the number of players they are missing right now, they can afford to even think about it.
Anderson, one of the few effective players in last night's loss to the Los Angeles Kings. There's Dwayne Norris with a chance in front. But you throw a speedster like Anderson, who's got that experience in the mix. And
well, it'll be a great addition, there's no question, to this Canadian team, and Tom Rennie knows it. But do you think Pat Burns and Cliff Fletcher are about to give up a player right now? They don't have enough players right now, it seems, that they can stay away from injuries with to afford that.
Here's Savage breaking in, gets the shot away. Norris with a shot that goes high and over the net.
The Russians have lost interest in this period of playing the body.
Well, after Lindros ran over Masliukov, maybe that's why. Now here's Norris. Flipping it in, and the Canadians go for a quick change. Lushko, he has one of the Canadian goals. Breaks in, leaves it for Brost. Brost took a bump and stayed on the puck and got it over to Aucoin. Trying to get it back for Brost, but the pass is broken up. Great play by the Canadian defense to rob Ali Birkenhoff of a scoring opportunity. And Corey Hirsch steers it away. And a penalty coming as Birkenhoff gets into it with Jason Marshall.
Well, when it's 8-2, you can expect some situations like this. Birkenhoff put his shoulder into Marshall. Marshall took offense to it, mostly for the reason why Birkenhoff had no thought of playing the puck. All he wanted to do was play Marshall.
Now, Gary, I'll ask you this, because the old myth, I guess a lot of people would say, is that if you take fighting out of hockey, it gets more violent. You get more stick work, you get more pushing and shoving. Do you buy into that?
Well, first of all, I don't think that you can take it out of the game. I think as many people know that I have at times thought of the National Hockey League that they shouldn't condone it. Otherwise, that if they maybe fight, they should think about throwing them out for that game, not suspending them further than that. Because if you take fighting out of the game, you're apt to have more high sticking, more slashing, more severe stick work that's going to hurt.
So you like the international rule better, where when you fight, you're gone from the game?
I think in a lot of cases that so many players has been shown in the National Hockey League over the years is that once they fight, they're pretty much done for the night anyway, especially if it's a good one. If it's not a good one, and if it's just a delay of the game and a pushing and shoving match, fans aren't too much interested in that anyway.
Yeah.
You know, near the end of the Toronto game last night, that was almost unnecessary. That wasn't a fight. That was just a delay in the end of the game.
Puck cleared back to the point to Zukov. Shot right on, and Hirsch steers it to the corner. Adrian Aucoin with it for Canada. I've seen some international games where there were no fights, but there was plenty of violence. I can think of one at the World Championships last year.
Well, and as we've seen tonight, there's this 2-minute fighting in the international hockey.
That kills me. I'd almost be embarrassed.
They don't want to throw players out for fighting in international hockey, so they end up giving them the 2-minute roughing penalty or double roughing penalty, and they stay in the game.
Norris from the right wing takes a shot. Abramov makes the save.
So they might as well just play the National Hockey League rules then and forget about so-called no fighting in international hockey.
Icing is the call against the Russians with an 8-2 lead for Team Canada. The Canadians have scored 7 straight goals. Defenseman Chris Therien has 3 of them, and Peter Nedved just another night, 4 points. Peter Nedved is playing in his 5th game for the national team.
That's okay.
14 points.
Tom Rennie hopes that there's a lot of games left for Peter Nedved to play. Canada's Olympic team.
Nedved's got 9 points in his last 2 games. And Paul Kariya appears to be getting a rest here late in the 3rd period as Russ Romanuk took his place on that shift.
I would be surprised, even though I hope for the Canadian Olympics team's sake, is that he is available to play for them. But I quite honestly will be surprised if Peter Nedved isn't dealt before then and isn't playing for a National Hockey League team.
Really?
There's some teams that are struggling right now that need some offensive help. A lot of teams need some offensive help, and watching Peter Nedved right now perform, they couldn't watch him before. They didn't know whether he's in good shape, whether or not, in fact, he was capable of performing at the level that they were going to have to give up and pay the Vancouver Canucks for. But by watching him in this last 2 games, he'd be worth a lot right now to get. He's a young man.
Tom Rennie do well perhaps to keep him on the bench for a while in some of these games. Keep it quiet about Nedved. 8-2, Canada leads. We're back to Halifax in a moment.
Can't play in cold weather.
No, the Dolphins do not like the cold weather. JETS, Jets tonight on TSN. Here's a long lead pass for Kariya, who went behind the back looking for Nedved, so Kariya not getting a rest after all. Now moves in front, shoots, and Abramov makes the save. Tom Rennie might lose all 3 of these players to NHL teams if he keeps showcasing them like this. What a night for these 3 guys. What a tournament. Turian rides Makarov out of the play. Nedved ahead for Brent Lindros. Lindros lost the puck at center ice, and Peter Nedved, I think, will be called for a hook on Sergei Makarov.
And you bring up a point, because the way that Paul Kariya has played in these couple of games is that if Anaheim Ducks are serious about going after a playoff spot, even though that wasn't really their goal, then who knows? There you see the penalty right at the center ice line.
Out of the penalty to number 93, Peter Nedved. 2 minutes for hooking. Time of the penalty, 14 minutes, 59 seconds. Out of the penalty, Nedved, 2 minutes for hooking at 14:59.
And don't forget, tomorrow night on the NHL Tonight, Pittsburgh at Ottawa. Saw Mario and the gang play there last year. A night where Mario Lemieux could have had 10 points easily. He had 6 and hit 4 goal posts. And of course, everyone anxiously hoping that Mario Lemieux can return to the Pittsburgh lineup soon. Now Rick Tocchet has back problems, and Pittsburgh's really in a tough way with injuries.
And when you take Tom Barrasso and Rick Tocchet, Mario Lemieux out of the lineup, it's a significant loss of your nucleus.
Actually, if you look at the 2 winningest teams from the calendar year of 1993, from January 1st to December 31st, it's Toronto and Pittsburgh, and both those teams devastated by injuries right now. 4:15 to play in the 3rd period. Team Canada leading 8-2 in an impressive game. And here's a break for Fabian Joseph, stopped in front. Abramov remains down. Joseph trying to get it back out front, and finally clears it back to Astley. And a penalty coming up to the Russian squad. And Masliukov fires the puck into the boards in disgust.
The Russians just gave up. The start of this 3rd period, when it was evident the momentum wasn't going their way early, they just seemed to cash in their chips and go home. And their coach, Sergei Nikolaev, knows it, and it's a tough situation to try to pull the team back in believing that they might be able to win this hockey game. Especially when even their coach really didn't know a lot of these players on his team. They were assembled at the last moment in many cases. Victor, as was he. Victor Tikhonov was supposed to be the coach here in Nova Scotia for this tournament. He was in Minnesota with 4 teams playing a Russian tournament in Minneapolis, St. Paul. That was one of the strangest ones that I've heard over all of the tournaments that have gone on in North America. 4 Russian teams, that's all that was in it, playing at the Bloomington Arena in Minnesota.
Tikhonov finally found a tournament he's guaranteed to win in the post-Soviet Union era of hockey. From what I've heard, the Soviet Union collapsed and everyone forgot to tell Viktor Tikhonov because he just keeps sailing on the way he was.
But you're right, as you had stated earlier, he will be the coach of the Olympic team. But there is concern because there's a national team right now and an Olympic team both fighting for players.
And the whole system desperate for money. Attendance is terrible in the Russian Elite League this year. They're playing to crowds numbering in the hundreds. And there's major questions about where all the money went from those NHL transfer fees. Dark times for Russian hockey when you think of the powerhouse they were just a few years ago, and still can be.
Meanwhile, when you take a look at all of the countries there, though, they've got 198 million people within those countries. They have 46,000 junior players within their development program right now. Can you imagine 46,000? So when you think of still the number of players that will come out of Russia and what I call the affiliated countries for the years to come, I still think they're going to produce a lot of hockey players if they have the money to do it.
That's the big question. Mark Astley with a shot that just went wide. Brian Savage trying to get in front to Trevor Sim. Back to the line to Astley. Canada on the power play. Derek Mayer to Savage. Mayer's got time. One times it just wide. Astley again with it. Russian penalty has expired. Here's Savage in the corner. Norris to Savage behind the net. Waiting for Derek Mayer to come in from the blue line, but Mayer was late in arriving. 1:40 to play in the third period. And the crowd begins to applaud the effort of this Canadian team, which leads 8-2. Saw a little bit of everything tonight. Bizarre goals, brilliant plays, you name it. And a solid effort by this Canadian team, which has scored 7 straight goals. What an effort by Todd Warner there to dump around. And Warner got stopped at the blue line. Now here's Contos. Looking for Brett Lindros in front. Shot by Contos hit a stick and deflected harmlessly to the boards.
1 minute remaining to play in this period.
Last minute to play in the third period. Long lead pass for Contos too far, and Abramovich will have to hang on to make the save. 46 shots on goal for Team Canada. We're back to Halifax in a moment.
The weekend's nearly over. Time to put things in perspective. Reflect on your accomplishments. Think things over. Think again. Celebrate Sunday night with TSN NFL style. It's a shootout at the Astrodome as the Jets tackle the Oilers. Hit the ground running with Sunday night NFL excitement on Real TV. TSN.
Pretty good day for Canada in international hockey. The junior team beat the Czech Republic earlier today. And Canada in this tournament leading Russia 8-2. The expectations always high of the national junior team, and you know they'll be high for Team Canada at the Olympics after the silver medal performance in Albertville. Here's Captain Fabian Joseph trying to get it to Lushko. He was tripped dangerously behind the Russian net. 30 seconds to play now in the third period. Here's Lushko. Looking for Aucoin. That pass is broken up. One last chance for the Russians. Stepanov. Got it ahead to Klementovich, but he was tied up neatly by the Canadian defender, Adrian Aucoin. The crowd counts it down, and Canada, with an impressive 8-2 victory over Team Russia, wins the 1994 Nova Scotia Cup. 41 days and counting for the Canadian national team until the Olympic hockey tournament opens in Lillehammer.
Well, I think Tom Rennie was expecting a little stiffer competition from both the Czech national team and the Russian national team than they actually received. But on the other hand, after having a pretty tough month, Tom Rennie's team is probably pretty happy to have some big wins just to regain some very needed confidence.
So important for Canadians to win tournaments in their home country. And Team Canada does it here with impressive style. This is the tournament that'll be remembered as being the first to see the line of Korea, Nedved, and Kontos. And what an impressive performance that line turned in a couple of games in the tournament. Peter Nedved with 9 points in 2 games in this tournament. And so now Team Canada with the victory has secured the Nova Scotia Cup. When we are set for the post-game presentations, and for those, let's go down to ice level.
Ladies and gentlemen, participating in the closing ceremonies of tonight's game are the official sponsors of Canada's international hockey program. Representing Imperial Oil, Barry Weems. Representing Labatt Breweries of Canada, Rand Kellogg. And representing Air Canada Air Nova, Bruce McClellan. Player of the Game awards have been provided by Seiko Canada. Making the Team Russia Player of the Game presentation is Barry Weems of Air Canada. The Team Russia Player of the Game is number 13, Sergei Berezan. Making the Team Canada Player of the Game presentation is Rand Kellogg of Labatt Breweries of Canada. The Team Canada Player of the Game is number 33, Chris Terrian. And now, making the presentation of the Nova Scotia International Cup, representing the Premier and the province of Nova Scotia. Please welcome the Honorable Ross Bragg, Minister of Economic Development and Tourism, and Mr. Ron Robison, President of Hockey Canada. Would the captain of Team Canada, Fabian Joseph, please come forward to accept the Nova Scotia International Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, Hockey Canada and the official sponsors of Canada's international hockey program, Air Canada, Imperial Oil Limited, and Labatt Breweries of Canada, would like to thank you all very much for attending tonight's game and supporting Canada's national hockey team.
So there's some more silver for the Team Canada trophy case back at the home office in Calgary. After an impressive 8-2 win over the Russians, Canada captures the Nova Scotia Cup. We'll be back with more right after this.